Olivia Salazar-Winspear. Olivia, we're going to begin with the developments on the Boston bombing story. One suspect, of course, dead, the other now in custody, and the media is filling the news gap really with a lot of speculation.
Yes, well, a lot of speculation, a lot of conspiracy theories. Now, his parents, just to update the story, they vehemently denied that their sons were involved with any kind of radical Islam or any militant organisation. His mother, the two men's mother, went as far as to say that her elder son's death was actually part of an American conspiracy, which leads us to this issue of conspiracy theories, which came up on the internet pretty much instantaneously after this attack. And there have been all sorts of far-flung ideas as to what's behind it. The Guardian's rounded up some of the major ones. There's the idea of a false flag attack. That's the first major idea. That's been put forward by people on the far right in the US, including broadcasters like Alex Jones, Glenn Beck. These are people who are suggesting that it was a staged attack by the government that creates a climate of fear and then allows them to take away civil liberties and extend homeland security. There's other stories involving the media. For example, the Boston Globe is accused of tweeting about an explosion before it actually happened. That was a controlled explosion that was planned, but the conspiracy theorists aren't buying that. They say that they knew what was going on. People have suggested that the older brother was an FBI informant, that the US military were involved. But when you hear all this kind of speculation, you can really see that people are looking for a reason. They're looking for some kind of motive in a case that so far is very ambiguous. Now, the Moscow Times has weighed in on this, saying that this association between Islam and terrorism is just too facile. They think that it's actually alienation that's at the root of this attack, that these men were ethnic Chechens who'd lived in Kyrgyzstan, who came to the US as children, and they had deeply troubled, confused identities. And the fact that they've been pointed at as part of a larger agency, as part of a wider Islamic attack on Western values, was simply down to the fact that they had dark skin and they happened to be Muslim, and that was just wrong on the part of the Western media. Actually, the journalist who writes this op-ed piece says that the elder brother has much more in common with the kind of lone wolf profile of attacks that you see in somewhere like Newtown or Oklahoma, which were white American men, individuals who were living on the margins of society, really.
Now, we're going to move on to another story we've been covering, of course, today. The news that the Serbian president has officially apologized for the Srebrenica massacre. He refers to it, of course, as a crime for which he asks for forgiveness on his knee, but a crime nonetheless, avoiding the term genocide.
Yes. So this is a move towards reconciliation in the region. Like you say, it's not a full move, but it is a move towards it. And in Kosovo, too, we've heard that last week the Serbian and Kosovar leaders met to discuss a normalization, or kind of a beginning of relations between the two camps. Now, the woman who brokered this meeting was Catherine Ashton of the EU Foreign Affairs Commissioner. She's written an opinion piece for the New York Times explaining how they got to this historic meeting, the months of negotiations that had built up to it, how they were talking about the conditions of Kosovar Serbs in northern Kosovo. And she really, it's a behind-the-scenes look at diplomacy, how it gets done. She really makes the case for the EU as a pacifying force, and she says that she hopes that this will now be the beginning of a new climate of peace in the region.
Now, finally, news from the world of fast food, in this case, vintage fast food. Tell us more.
Yes, a man from Utah in the USA has produced a burger that he bought 14 years ago. He'd left it in a jacket pocket. And what's extraordinary is that if you take a look at the photograph of it, it looks exactly the same as the day he bought it. No strange smell. It hasn't decomposed. There's no mold growing on it. So it's a warning about the perils of fast food and all the preservatives that go into it. 14 years old, that burger is.
That is extraordinary and absolutely disgusting. Olivia Salazar-Winspear, thank you very much indeed. That was the International Press Review. Now, coming up in just a moment, it's now 18 minutes past 9 here in Paris. Coming up next.